In the morning, up the next day in Cairo. Sun rises.
To show you the original height, because it's lost the capstone from up there. We see Cheops boats inside the museum. I'll be buying the tickets for these. But if anyone is interested in going, just up here on the right, this is the Mena House Hotel. It used to be a king's hunting lodge originally, but then it was changed into a hotel at a later period. This is where the big three
Camels.
meant to be the elixir of life, all of that, the fountain of youth, and these different things. That wasn't that long ago. So imagine 4,500 years ago. If you were promised, it extends from this point westwards for 4,000 miles. The other
Oh, so slight. Where does that water come from?
from the Nile itself, part of it is seeping through from the river, and part of it's coming in from the Mediterranean. So the northern oases are getting some from the
Are the
Mediterranean.
mountains in the desert high enough to get rainfall that would recharge the
The
oasis?
mountains are high enough, but we don't get the rainfall. It doesn't reach them.
So it's all
virtually
percolation.
no rain.
Still all
The ones that were always there, they're the ones who knew exactly how to cut the blocks, which angles to put them at, and the dimensions and sizes of everything were calculated by these people, and so on. Then you had the volunteers who came up to work during the summer. These were farmers who worked originally in the land, but during the summer we had the annual flood. When the land was flooded, there was nothing for these farmers to do. If there was nothing for them to do, they've got no work, they're not paid. So they came up to volunteer in this work by this doing two things. First of all, they're getting paid for their work instead of sitting around in the valley doing nothing when it's flooded. But most importantly, it was their religious act. This is their religious participation. They're building these tombs for what they believe to be the gods. The king of Egypt at that time was not just a king, he was the god on earth. Okay, so they were building the burial place of the god, which will enable this king to become a god in eternity as well. And that meant that anybody who served him would go with him to eternity. So anyway, they were doing it for themselves as well. They want to make sure that he gets there because he's their ticket to eternity as well. If he makes it to eternity, they go with him. After that, well, we go up to a viewpoint from where we'll see all the three pyramids from a distance. We can take photographs of the pyramids if you like. Then we'll return back down to the valley where we see the Sphinx.
What's that?
That's the pyramid.
Oh, but I mean, what is...
Is
that an entrance?
That's the entrance into the pyramid. That's the entrance. The original entrance is the one higher up.
Right.
The lower entrance is the one that was dug by the Mamluks. During the Mamluk period and the Arab period, they were trying to find a way in because the original entrances were covered. So they started digging a corridor, and while they were digging it, one of the roofing slabs of the original corridors fell down, and from the sound of it, they detected where the corridors were and they linked it to it. That's the Great Pyramid, that's Cheops. Then you have Kifrin, the second one, which still retains part of the outer of the facing blocks on the top. And then Sphinx is the smallest one, is in the hind its back. You can actually, if you look to the side of the pyramid, you can see where the blocks have been cut out. You can actually see where the limestone has been cut out, the actual core stones. That's the museum, just to the side of the pyramid there. These square buildings are what we call mastabas. That was the original style for burial before they started building pyramids. You used to have these mastabas, which is a shaft leading down underground and covered by these blocks of stones with a small entrance leading down into the shaft.
To be presented with a challenge of
Behind
memorializing.
memorializing, yes.
Team building.
team building.
Something to do with
It looks
their
like we're in a
prisoners of
marketing,
war.
sales and marketing convention here.
Jobs for their prisoners of war.
Jobs for the no, not prisoners of war. They wouldn't even be allowed in these areas.
Eternal life.
Slaves and prisoners of war would not be allowed in the area.
Ah.
This is a sacred site. It's the burial place of the gods. To even step into this area was a huge honor at that time.
Guaranteed eternal life if you work to build the pyramids.
But why the pyramids? Why not just a tomb?
Because these are seen from a long ways away. They're an emblem that all the people can see, and also all
And
the
rob.
your.
People can see it and rob it.
Well, there is that. And I was going to say, and then also you've got your.
Think
the
religion.
image and the other
Think
thing.
Weren't they
religion.
rising towards the sun
Think
god?
religion.
Closer
sun
to
god
the
was-
heavens.
was-
Let's start it from the very beginning. What is the idea behind the mummification process?
Preservation.
Preservation of your physical body. Right? The ancient Egyptians believed that when you're created in three parts. Your body, which they called the Ghet, your spirit or soul, which they called the Ba, and something else they called the Ka. Okay? When you're born, those three are united and they come to life in the normal life on earth. When you die, those three are separated. So the window's open, it's gonna get separate. Your body is mummified and placed inside the tomb. Your spirit or your soul travels up to the sky to become a star. And your Ka, that part of you, never dies. It's always alive. But it lives inside the mummified body, and it comes out of the mummified body to eat and drink and smoke and use incense and perfumes and oils and everything else you could imagine that you used to do in your life,
That you took with you when you were buried.
which you took with you or was at least drawn on the walls of the tombs. That's why they stored all these things inside the tombs or drew them on the walls of the tombs. But most important, this part of you, this Ka, travels to eternity where it lives forever after. So the whole intention behind this is for this Ka to be recreated in eternal life where the person can live eternally in this afterlife. Now for this recreation to take place, they needed something symbolic of the original beginning of creation. It's like if you're working in an office or something and you have a project, you have an aim, a 5-year plan or a 6-year plan, you put big poster on the wall, this is where we are now, this is where we want to be in 5 years, that sort of thing. To them, they had to put something symbolic of the beginning of creation because that's what they're aspiring for, the recreation of the Ka into eternal life. Although there were numerous theories of creation in ancient Egypt, the most prominent theory is that the entire universe, the whole world, started off as a big ocean. The waters of which started going down. As the water decreased in these oceans, the first thing to appear out of the water was the tip of a mountain, which the ancient Egyptians called the Ben Ben. And that became the symbol of the beginning of creation. These pyramids are duplicates of the Ben Ben. They are intended to remind the Ka that what you're looking for is recreation. That's what you want to be recreated. And it's a symbol that does not only exist in the pyramids, in all their burial structures and in their temples. When we visit the temples later on during our cruise or in Luxor and Aswan, I will show you that these temples are duplicates of the beginning of creation. Not just the tombs. The flat-topped,
Flat top.
the mastabas like these,
Right.
right? With slanted sides. Why the slanted sides? They were capable of building straight sides.
Symbolic of.
It's the base historic periods. People were buried in a little bit in the ground. Okay? Now, if you were trying to bury something in your back garden, go out to the back garden, dig out. He's the one that gets it because he's the one who signs the paper. He's the one who signs the paper. He's become famous enough now that universities all over the world pay him tremendous amounts of money to go and lecture. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
he's
the whole
always
idea.
on the,
He's
it's
always
the
on.
naked archaeologist. Have you ever
If you
watched
want,
this guy?
if any like Discovery Channel wants to make a film about Egypt or something like that, if they don't interview him and if he doesn't show in the film, he's not going to agree on it. He will not let them do it because he's the one who signs the papers at the end, so they have to have him in. That's why he's in everything. His picture is everywhere, all over the place. He's we call him the modern pharaoh of Egypt. Anyway, but not necessarily everything he says is right. We don't know about the